it on YouTube or listen to it on Spotify. So 1 second. Welcome to another episode of Million Dollar Stories, where we get to interview authors from all over the world. I love talking to entrepreneurs. They all can teach you something. And this individual is pretty extensive with his background, but more so than anything, it seems like he's a motivational speaker. If you just go to yourondaniels.com, phenomenal website. You can get a gauge on somebody just based off of their website. And he's been around, he's done a lot of things, and he's a part of a book that's called Business Success Secrets, Entrepreneurial Thinking That Works. And we had an individual who is a part of this book. Uh, we talked to him yesterday, and really cool stuff that he shared with us. And it seems like there's a lot of great up and coming or even big time entrepreneurs all over the world that's a part of this one book. So I will say, Yaron Daniels, it is an honor to have you here, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start off with the genesis of the book or even the business. Go back into who you were before you became an entrepreneur and how did you actually find your way?
So I have an interesting story. I actually started my business very young. I started it when I was 10 years old. And it started off from a camera that was put under a Christmas tree, supposed to be a family gift. And I was an early bird, obviously, as a child. I got up before everyone else and started digging, right? I want to see what Santa Claus bought. And
Nice.
and sure enough, it was a camera. So I started digging from there, and it was kind of the foundation of my first company, which was Reflections Video at that point in time. And we just took it and started videoing any and everything that I could possibly do.
Wow. So what year was that and what kind of camera?
It was just a regular $500-600 camera that you can get out of Best Buy or any of those places. And I was 10 years old, so this year I'm celebrating 37 years in May of entrepreneurship.
Wow. Good for you, dude. So you get this camera and you just start using it to serve the many. That's a phrase that we live by here. And it's serve the many for service to the many leads to greatness, whether it's through entertainment or through value, or whether it's insight or just something that could make somebody else's life better, right?
Absolutely, keyword service, right?
Damn right.
I've been about service all of my life, and this was, I think, the beginning of it. I grew up in a family that has served the public in one way, shape, or form throughout their family. My grandparents, my parents. So I've kind of been in that. It's in my blood. I've kind of been under that guidance for some time, but that's where it all started from.
Gotcha. And this book in that we're talking about today, Business Success Secrets, you do have a chapter in the book. What is that chapter on?
So it talks about so just to give everyone a perspective or a background of it, Success Secrets is an anthology, right? So there are entrepreneurs from across the world that came together, and we all wrote an individual chapter, which talks about basically our experience through our individual business. So we have businesses from every different spectrum that you can possibly imagine, right? And all of us took different paths, but we're all very successful at what we're doing. In my particular chapter, I talk about some of the pros, the cons, what I went through with COVID, what was very helpful, what got me through COVID, right? Because anyone that can say they made it through COVID, that's a blessing within itself, right? But there were some very strategic things that happened during that time, and I talk about that within the actual book. But I also talk about some things that were very helpful along my journey, and some things that I learned. Right, everything wasn't always done right, everything wasn't always done correctly, but you live and you learn. And if we could share that wisdom with someone else, obviously that will save them that hassle as they pursue their journey through entrepreneurship as well.
Yesterday we had Solomon Timothy on. Do you know who that is? He's a part of the book, but he talks more so
Yes,
about marketing and being
yes,
different. And we had a great conversation about in order to be different, you actually have to have courage, right? Courage to put yourself out there on camera in a book and be willing to swim to the blue ocean, right? And
yep.
be somewhere where nobody else is. And therefore you're sort of an outsider for a while. What was one, two, or three really great takeaways early on when you were kind of making your bones in this game?
I think, I was on a podcast earlier this week, and I think from my standpoint, and he's absolutely correct, marketing is very much so essential. From my standpoint, it was about following a passion, right? And I think that connecting that particular passion to a need within a community, within a church, within any particular organization, that bridge from the passion to that need, that's the business opportunity, right? So I took the passion that I had with electronics, with cameras, with different things, just putting all those pieces together. That was my passion. And I followed that passion and continued to follow it. And that's what led me to business opportunities. So I believe that bridge between an individual's passion and that need within the individual community, that bridge is the opportunity for, in fact, business.
Mm, passion. There's no doubt it's undeniable in people that have it, right? It's in their eyes, their body language, their tonality. And I think if you're passionate about what you do, you automatically attract like-minded individuals, but the energy starts flowing your way. I've been in
Absolutely.
rooms with billionaires, right? And I think I have more passion for my business than they do for theirs. So it's wild to see individuals coming to us, seeing like what we're up to, if they see the excitement in my eyes and they feel it in my vicinity, right? So you can attract attention and opportunities based off of how much passion do you have for your purpose, for your solution, or for your business.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. I take an extensive amount of training, and the first thing that comes to mind is a statement that John Maxwell stated some time ago, and he says one person with a passion is stronger, or bigger, or greater than 99 with just an interest. Right. So if you
Oh,
have
I
a true
love that.
passion about
Yeah.
something, you're going to be more impactful than someone with just an interest in something. So absolutely, the passion is, I believe, is the foundation for any successful business.
Would you ever invest in a business that's led by an individual that you can't sense the passion? Because it's almost like, do you have what it takes to go to the top of the mountain? And individuals who are sane will give up whenever it gets really hard, right? But if you love what you do, you're willing to go through those dragons and those demons that stand in front of you. So it's you have to have it because it's sort of like wind that has your back, and therefore you can go through what other people are unwilling to even try.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. To answer your question, no, probably not. I would not invest if that individual didn't have the passion, because, there's this big myth that, when you become a business owner, oh, you don't have to work hard. You don't have to do this. Money just automatically comes, and it comes naturally. And I think that's that's an untruthful statement, right? You have to work. And many times, sometimes, especially in a startup business, you may work 7 days a week, right? So you have to enjoy what you're doing, as you mentioned, in order to keep that motivation going, because initially things are not going to be easy, right? And you have to have some type of motivation to get you across those hurdles, as you insinuated earlier. So I
Yeah,
think that's very key.
2020 was an absolute test, like you said, and it did, I think, bring out the best in many people. However, very much like in the movie Forrest Gump, if you've ever watched that movie, uh, where the ships are all crashed on the island or on the land, and there's only one that's survived, and that is the Forrest Gump's Jenny. And so he reaps all the rewards because he's the only one out there. So storms come and go, but if you withstand them, individuals see you as sort of a guiding light. Hey, you have withstand some crazy tests, and I trust you more. And I think that whenever you go through something like what we went through in 2020, you have to dig deep down inside and then pull something out of you that you never had to before. And maybe that's the key that gets you to the next level of your career, of your business, financially, or whether it's, whenever it comes to just taking over a market share. And so I'm assuming that's what happened with you, right? You kind of dug deep, found something. And what was the greatest takeaway from 2020, even that great storm?
Uh, Let me be very clear. It was God's favor, because there were many, many people, great people, who had great companies that did not make it across the bridge, right? And so I'm first thankful, by all means, for that. But I will say, to take it a step further, I think I was really blessed to have gone through some things prior to 2020, believe it or not, that prepared me to a certain extent for 2020. And I want to take that a step back, because really 2020 doesn't matter how hard you prepared, what you worked for. 2020 was new territory for everybody, right? So no question about it. But I will say this. I learned the key of diversification in 2008, when we had the first recession, right? Back in the 2008 Obama era. Um, I started diversifying my transportation business. I have multiple businesses, but I'll talk about that for all intents and purposes of this conversation. We have a ground transportation company, and now my ground transportation company, we have everything from sedans all the way up to the bigger buses, right? So at one point in time in 2008, I only did big buses. Well, in 2020, what happened is the bigger buses basically shut down. Right, we got the call immediately and abruptly stopped, as in airlines, as in pretty much every entity of ground transportation. But the one thing, because of diversification, I was able to do, I was able to keep my smaller vehicles moving, and that's what allowed me to get through COVID. Had I only been in the bigger buses, I don't think I would have survived. To be very honest, but I learned that through diversification. So I would encourage anybody walking away from that. I would say definitely don't put all your eggs in one basket per se. Figure out whatever your niche is, but figure out how to diversify it. Right. I spoke with a group this past weekend at a conference this past weekend. I spoke with them and we were talking about it doesn't matter if you're a plumber or what have you, don't put all of your eggs and I'm only going to be able to change this particular pipe, because what happens if there's a supply and demand issue, right? And that pipe goes away, right? Then what are you going to do? Diversify yourself so that you can always fall back on one thing or the other in the event that you run into a snag as far as supply chains or anything. So I think that really helped me through COVID. The other piece that helped me through COVID was connecting and networking with folks, because it allowed me to figure out what others, it put me in a circle or in conversations to allow me to conversate with others who are in the same industry that I was in, transportation, that allowed me to kind of bounce things off to understand, how do I get access to monies, PPP loans, those types of things. What are you doing to really help kind of do that? So it helped me being in those circles that allowed me to stay informed on what's going on around me at a local level, but also at a national level as well. So staying connected with folks, leaders, mentors, what have you, that got me through COVID, as well as the diversification. I would say those are probably the two things, but ultimately I was very blessed to be
Yeah.
able to make it across that bridge.
Oh, you hit the nail on the head. Diversification, multiple revenue streams by far is the great solution that got me through it. And it really woke me up to my biggest problem is I was reliant on one revenue stream. Okay, well, I need to change some gears here and go somewhere else and create more revenue streams, more value for the marketplace. So when is it the right time to diversify? Is it whenever you notice an opportunity, you capitalize on it, or when one revenue stream sort of sustainable and therefore you can kind of devote some resources and time to another? And it's very much like an inch mile, a mile, or an inch wide and a mile deep. And then eventually you start to go and make it a lot wider. So it becomes a mile wide and a mile deep. So when is it the right time? And is there anything you can share about, what type of businesses to invest in to create those multiple revenue streams?
So it's very simple. I think it is. And I say it's simple now, but it wasn't simple learning it, right? But I'm going to try and explain it very simple, in simple terms, so that anyone can understand it. Here's the deal. Money never really stops flowing. It just flows in different directions, right?
Yeah.
So if you understand that, then you understand diversification is really a very strong, I would say, an asset to any entrepreneur. Because if money stops flowing from one direction for one entity, obviously, or one aspect of your business, then maybe it can flow from a different direction and you continue your revenue stream. If everything's going great, great, you have multiple sources of income, right? Money never really stops flowing. So if you look at COVID, right, some folks got very, very wealthy during COVID, right? So the funds really didn't stop flowing. They just started flowing in a different direction, the Amazons of the world, right? So
Uh-huh.
if you really think about that, many folks did well through COVID. But the key is finding out how to put yourself in that position so that when the dollars start flowing in a different direction, you're there to receive those particular dollars. So to answer your question, I would say start diversifying as early as possible. Learn your business, become an SME, as we say in corporate, right, or subject matter expert, but then start diversifying from there. Find out other ways that you can benefit people or be an asset to people in your community through different avenues in your individual entity.
Now, this is sort of a selfish question, but how does an individual become a subject matter expert? And my only assumption is watch what other people like yourself are doing. And that includes being a part of books, hitting bestseller lists, constantly speaking at events, doing podcasts like this, becoming the go-to source when individuals have a problem that becomes big enough. They think of you and you are the top of mind individual. So what do you recommend? Because I'm probably going to take this clip and share it with all my clients, just so you know.
I will tell you everything you said, you hit it on the head. But I will tell you at age 10, one of the things that allowed me, and I say this in every conversation I'm in, at that age, the thing that allowed me to advance so quickly and to learn so quickly is I connected with mentors who were doing what I was already doing. And let me clarify that. A simple conversation over lunch, over dinner, over the phone, you can have an hour conversation with someone who's been in a business that you're trying to strive to be in, someone who's been in that business for 20 years. An hour conversation with them will tell you what they were successful with in 20 years, what worked for them, what didn't work for them, where they made their money. You start picking their brain, right? And what that will do is that will allow you to save 20 years of frustration, right? Save you time from going over the same mistakes that they already made, and they know how to avoid those mistakes. That simple conversation will allow you to advance that much further along the way. So you're picking all these people's brains and you understanding what worked, what didn't work. And eventually it'll all come together for you, right? We definitely shouldn't go left. We shouldn't go right either. Maybe we should go down this road because this road is a dead end. Even though it looks like it's a great opportunity now, it may not necessarily be a great opportunity in 3 years. You get all of this wisdom from people who've been there and done that. And then you start developing your way and your path in the direction that you want to go. Once you have all of that wisdom, you save so much time and avoid so much frustration in that particular entity. That's what allowed me to advance so quickly at a young age.
Yeah, it's the hero's journey, right? Part of the hero's journey is finding mentors, right? You have to have the Mr. Miyagi to teach the Karate Kid on how to do a move and to win the battles. So
Yep.
you need a Mickey to teach you how to
Mm-hmm.
win the wars against Apollo Creed, right? So like
Yep.
you need these mentors. Now, here's my question. I've never asked this to somebody, even in my own circles, but what happens when you meet mentors and they give you advice? And even whenever you realize they're fallible, right? They make mistakes and some of their advice is not the best. How do you handle that? Or is it based off of, hey, this is why you don't just pick one, you pick many? And you just kind of make a decision based off of individuals who are further along the path than you, knowing that they've made thousands of mistakes and they're not perfect, but they're going to give you enough insight for you to make the best educated decision. And it's up to you to continue on and to keep slaying the dragon. So they're never going to be giving you 100% all the answers. It's up to you to find your own way. How do you handle that? And is it something that you came across and it kind of scared you when you realize some mentors make big mistakes too?
Absolutely. I think the mentorship is, in my opinion, is used as a guide, right? It's not, there's business is no easy one way for all, one shoe fits all, right? So as you talk with multiple ones, I agree, you hit it on the head. And when you said have multiple ones, right?
Yep.
Everyone will bring their own perspective on it. But the reality of it is that if I'm talking to someone who's been in business 20 years, AI wasn't as powerful in 20 years ago as it is today, right?
Yes.
For an example, right? So you can't imagine, there's some things that will be consistent, but then there are many things that have changed along the way. So use the mentorship, the failures, the successes that they had as guides, right? And then you make your own assumption based on today's environment. We have so many more tools now in 2024 that someone in the 80s didn't have. Artificial intelligence. We can go out and do research now. We can go out and do all those things. So again, you can't run a business now like you did in the 80s, but there's some strong concepts I think that are really there that will help guide you. So you're correct. I think some things now are completely different than they were in the 80s, right? But you
Yeah.
leverage those as guides and then make your own individual assumption and best choice in order to move forward in today's environment.
Yeah, I'm in so many masterminds and I have a few mentors. And what's crazy is that these are extremely successful people in different areas, and they are both preaching, or multiple individuals are preaching different solutions for my path. And it's like, oh, wow, this person says this person says this. Like, they're both successful. They're both further financially than me. It's like, which way do I go? And that's where the intuition has to sink in, and maybe the grace of God, like you said. So
Absolutely.
also, we do talk a lot about in the hero's journey these ground zero moments, and there are times in my life where I was kind of knocked down, but I now look back and say, thank God that happened. Is there a ground zero moment in your life, maybe outside of the 2020, that really showed you some things that you didn't know before, or maybe you dove a little deeper into your faith and therefore
Yeah.
you've kind of had a superpower after those ground zero moments?
Yeah, well, if you didn't have faith in 2020, you definitely got steered in that direction, right?
That
Because
is so
nobody
true.
knew, no one knew what was coming in 2020. No one saw it coming, but it was there, and I think every opportunity I try to look at it as a learning opportunity for me, right? Some things, you learn more. Some mistakes are bigger than others. I think um, historically, I'm always one for stepping up to a challenge, right? And I think one of my biggest lessons that I've learned, I would say most recently than others, is having the right person in the right position at the right time. All right. And let me clarify that. If you end up doing more work fixing things if you don't have the right person on your team in the right position at the right time, right? So I used to be to the point, to your question, was I needed to fill a slot for an example, and I wanted to just make sure that slot was full, even though or filled if even if it were not the I didn't feel at that point in time it was per se the right person, right? I just wanted to backfill a position, those types of things. As an entrepreneur, I learned that it's very critical to have the right person in the right job or in the right slot at the right time. And in many cases, you're better off not having anybody in that slot than having the wrong person in that slot. And I think that has been a big lesson that I've learned, I would say most recently. That's there. We talked about it earlier in my career. I learned that diversification was very key because I was not as diversified, right? It impacted my business to a certain extent but like I said, every opportunity, whether it's a success or maybe not so successful, I tried to learn how to be better. There's an old motto that my mentor used to tell me: if better is possible, then good is not enough, right? So you look at every opportunity to continue and advance and learn to push yourself forward as an entrepreneur.
Oh, I like that quote. Now, I can tell you're very articulate when it comes to the entrepreneurial journey or whenever it comes to motivation. I'm looking at your website here. You speak on youth motivation, student leadership, entrepreneurship, business conferences, youth summits, teen bullying, graduations, college, university speakers. Many of my clients who are listening right now, or the ones I just work with, are always looking to become better at speaking. They want speaking gigs because I think that just is an automatic sign you have authority in a space. It seems like you've been doing this for a while. Is there any tips that you recommend for the entrepreneur out there listening to get better at this? And my only recommendation is practice doesn't make perfect, but it makes progress. So anytime you can look at a podcast as a stage, you win. Anytime you get in front of somebody and you can communicate and articulate your solutions, you win. Treat everything like a stage. And I think that's what I get from a guy named Nick Santanastasso, another speaker out there, and he looks at everything as a stage. So it's an opportunity to grow. Is there any advice that you can provide to our listeners?
You hit a lot of them on the head, but I would say more importantly, speak from the heart. When you're on stage and people are looking at you, they want to understand exactly your experience, right? It's okay to quote folks, it's okay to do other things, but really speak from your experiences and tie them into the particular subject at hand, right? How were you impacted by something, or um, what were you able to learn from any particular situation that you went through along your journey, and then tie that back to the audience. So as long as you can stay connected to the audience and utilize your personal experiences, I think you're good to go. But I like your quote earlier from someone that's saying treat everything like it's a stage, right? Everything like it's a audience, and I think you will continue to advance along that path.
Yeah, I mean, I love podcasts because it's a lot of Q&A. It's, a natural conversation. It's an adjustment that's required when you get up on stage and you can't feel that reverberance. You can't
Yep.
have any energy coming back your way. And you do need to perfect your game of looking people in the eye and feeling like you're connecting with them on a one-to-one level, which is really counterintuitive, if you will, because you're trying to talk to thousands potentially. So doing it over and over, mastering your story and having that cadence on point, most likely makes them feel comfortable that you know who you are and you know what and you know what you're talking about. Just
Absolutely.
constant activity that you need to do for you to get refined with that. Is that right? It probably took you
Yeah.
many podcasts and many speaking gigs.
Absolutely. Here's the deal. When you walk in front of a live audience, right, you have to be able to adapt quickly because you don't know what's out there waiting on you. You know, you can have this questionnaire, you send out questionnaires prior to, but when you walk in that room, you really don't know what's on the other side, what's sitting there looking at you. So you have to be able to adapt quickly with that. If not, you know, if you go out there and say, this is all I'm going to do, and your audience is not vibing with you, right? If you cannot adapt quickly, there's going to be some challenges there.
Yeah. And self-talk. I say this to everybody. When you're about to walk on stage, say to yourself, I'm going to crush it. I'm going to crush it. Because when I go back into my first couple speaking gigs, I would say to myself, you probably do the same thing. Don't screw up. Don't screw up. And what is your subconscious here? Screw up, right? It
Yep,
doesn't
yep,
hear that
yep,
don't part. And
yep.
I think the more you talk to yourself in a positive way, like you're going to crush it and almost paint the picture as if it's already done, it seems like you are a natural fortune teller trying to make that idea come to life.
Absolutely.
So, um, is there a book out there that stands out in your life as sort of a defining moment? I always bring up Rich Dad Poor Dad as the one that kind of put me on this path. Is there one that made you fall in love with this game?
I would say, business success secrets, right? Because I'm in there, right?
Nice.
I got to put that out there. Got to put that plug in there, right? No, but honestly, I won't say. Um, I will say this as an encouraging words. As a child, I hated reading. I hated reading with a passion. And I can say that, right? I don't know if I should use those two words together, but I didn't like reading at all. Didn't like it because I was more of a hands-on type of person. But as I continue and grow, I did start adapting and reading different things and different books, different magazines, Forbes, different things that allowed me to really connect with people who were very successful. And as I began to read more, it allowed me to expand my horizons, right? I came up through the World Wide Web era, right? So I tend to do more reading online than I did in a physical book, and understanding other people's journeys and understanding how other people became very successful. But I will say, as I learned to start reading and getting more comfortable with reading, um, it allowed me to kind of clarify my destiny even more so because I learned what other people were doing to be successful. And it opened my eyes to things I never even imagined, right? But had I not, read these articles, read some of these publications, read some of these things, I would not have done that. But I read a lot of business journals. I read a lot of, Forbes type magazines just to kind of stay abreast as to what's going on around me locally, but around us worldwide, right? Because the world is evolving so quickly and things are changing so quickly. And as I mentioned earlier, you have to be able to adapt as a business owner very, very quickly in order to stay on top of your game.
Yeah, I look at entrepreneurship as a personal development journey disguised as a business journey. So the constant need to learn new information is
Yep.
just at the top of my mind all the time, right? And you might not know when you need that quote or that belief or that thought, but you will need it in the future. And the more you understand how the greats think, it gives you an advantage everywhere you go. So
Absolutely.
you do have something here I'm going to touch on. It's your scholarship. And one thing that I'm trying to get better at every year is giving back, right? So whether it's tithing or whether it's just being more of service with my time or my money, sort of like giving, I'm blessed. So you need to have some type of process or system that automates money or time or just doing something that does something outside of your business. And I think that is crucial to the soul, but for the community. And you have something here. It's called the Uran S. Daniels Scholarship. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Absolutely. So back in 2008, I developed an endowment at the University of North Carolina at Wilmington at the Cameron School of Business. And that's for minorities who are coming into UNCW, who is pursuing business. They're doing that. And I came up with that idea, and let me just say, this is probably one of the more known scholarships because it is an endowed scholarship. But I've always been a giver, and I've always been a proponent of supporting education. But this particular scholarship was very special because number one is it's home for me. I didn't go to UNCW. I didn't. Not an alum of UNCW. But I elected to give here because I wanted to do something for my community. There was a huge need there. The university was pushing for diversity. That was there. I connected with the business school. There were many. At that point in time, it was Dean Clark. I went and had several conversations with him about what he wanted to do, and his talk was that, and he was right on it when he said it. Minorities have a different path through entrepreneurship than any other race. We hit challenges. Every race has their own individual challenges, right? But we have different challenges that we have to go through. So, what better way of trying to incorporate that and encourage people to come in through that? And I wanted to do that and support minorities through scholarship who were looking to pursue their education in business. And I decided to do that first endowment there at the University of North Carolina at Wilmington, here in Wilmington, North Carolina.
And I think the way to freedom is entrepreneurship. So you're preaching the message, become more entrepreneur-like. I have a phrase within our company. It's think like an entrepreneur. If you do that, you can solve any problem. And I think if people adopt that at an early age, it gives them an advantage. It sounds like that's what you're doing, but the school system, in my opinion, does not do a great job of instilling that work ethic and the problem-solving mentality. So do you find yourself kind of combating against the school system, and maybe this scholarship kind of solves that problem? So what have you seen?
Well, I will tell you with the individual school, I think the scholarship has been successful. It has helped. Anytime you can help anyone, right, to further their educational journey, it's a success there. That's the way I look at it. But even the lower grades, it's a funny thing. Just last week, I had this huge conversation. They said, when did you really, really learn as much, or when do you think your biggest learning curve was? And I said, as a child, right? When you're a child, if you can start something at that early age, I would recommend it. Here's why. You are no threat to anyone. We have the film studio here. We have television studios here. I was able to walk in any one of those places without a problem. All I had to do was ask. Because I was a child, they loved me. They say, come on in. I want to show you. They're open book to you. The younger you start, the more, and then you learn quicker, right? Whenever you're younger. But if you can get that mentality at an early age, then you grow through that mentality, right? If you understand business, if you understand just the entrepreneurial spirit at an early age, I think it's very advantageous because everyone wants to help you. You're no threat to anyone, right? As I got into my late teens, early 20s, or what have you, now people are seeing me as a threat. So I can't just walk in a film studio now, right? I can't just sit up under the top director now. I can't just go into a TV studio now. It's a little more challenging. At that early age, there was no problem at all. Come on in, sit here, do this. You can do whatever you wanted to do, right? So it was very instrumental to me. But I will say the local school systems here in New Hanover County, where here in Wilmington, they're getting it. They're starting to invest money into seventh graders, eighth graders, ninth graders, and 10th graders here to try and start teaching them these crafts, these skills to get them to start to think. And I think that's going to be huge down the road for not only this community, but others who adapt into that process.
Yeah. Be like a child. Sounds like you're a man of faith. And when it comes to the Bible, it says in the Bible, be like a child to enter the kingdom of God. So,
Yep.
once you're a child, don't ever leave that, right? Don't grow old, stay a child forever. Because I think what you're saying there is, you have more opportunity and you have more time on your side, but you're probably more curious. So lean in on that curiosity and doors will open. So I love that. And then also when it comes to the social media channels to get a hold of you, it seems like you're all over the place. Is there one, two, or three that you recommend for people to get in touch with you, look at your social media, and see what you have to offer if they want to hire you to speak at their event or their school?
Yep, I think the biggest challenge is learning how to spell my name, right? Euran, because it's definitely not spelled like it's pronounced. But I would send folks first to my website. It's Euran, Euran, Daniels, all spelled out. .com. So it's YaronDaniels.com. You go there, but I am on all the social links, right? I'm on Instagram. I have a large following there. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm pretty much everywhere. But if you want to learn more about my journey, I would say definitely start with my website, and then take it from there. But I'm willing and want to connect. I love connecting with folks all over the world, to share my experience, because I think my story, especially from starting so young, is a little different than others, right? Many folks didn't start their journey until later in life, but I started mine, and there were many benefits from starting so early.
Yeah. And like going back to being like a child, if you have this habit or routine built in that you are not a victim and you're out there and you are going to progress and be in control of your destiny, nothing can stop you, right? And I think
Absolutely,
capitalism and entrepreneurship gives an individual a sense of power. So the moment you instill that in a young person's brain, it never leaves them, right? So
absolutely,
they look at problems as opportunities, right? And so they're wherever there's chaos, there's opportunity. So rather than run from the fire, they run towards it. And it seems like you're doing that with this scholarship, that you're giving these individuals this advantage in the marketplace. Give them the entrepreneurial dream and watch what they do with it.
absolutely. That's the goal.
It's great. So, guys, check out his website. Like he said, YaronDaniels.com. You'll be able to see his scholarship that's aiming at helping people become more entrepreneur-like, and therefore they, like you said, they get away from the bad habits and create the life that they truly deserve and want. So, awesome. His website's there. His social media channels on there. And guys, the book that he's a part of is called Business Success Secrets: Entrepreneurial Thinking That Works. I will have to say, Yaron Daniels, it's an honor to have you here, sir. Thank you so much for your
Thank,
time.
thank you for having me.
Remember, guys, $1 million book will lead to $1 million life. Right on.